Welcome to the Becoming Body Smart podcast, where we unlock the secrets of sustainable health and fitness and help you master your health habits. If you're tired of quick fixes, generic blueprints, and chasing short-term results, you're in the right place. It's time to become Body Smart.
Here we go. So we're talking about, earlier today, the kind of our topic about strength training is what we wanted to talk about. And cardio, both, like the roles of strength training and cardio. And I know we've talked about it before, but we kind of, as we were talking about it and prepping for this, we had this kind of realization that strength training is the fountain of youth, while like cardio is the key to longevity. So by doing cardiovascular exercise, regular cardiovascular exercise, like cycling, running, swimming, things like that, where you have to do sustained exercise that helps build up our heart and lungs and internal organs. Cardio is so good at that, and it helps us to live longer and keep us healthy, where strength training is really one of the keys to maintaining our physical capability of doing the things we love to do. So it's the fountain of youth because it really does help build up our body and keep us capable of doing all the things and staying young and fit and vital. So
yeah. Well, and so you look at people. We referenced this on a call a couple months ago, but there was a study where they took people who had been like elite level world class cross country skiers, and they looked at their VO2 max compared to controls their age, right? People that weren't regularly exercising. And it was like through the roof, right? So their general overall health and ability to keep moving was really good. But when they compared their strength and their power, right? Can they use their strength quickly to sedentary people? The sedentary population actually had more strength and could produce higher power. And so we see this all the time, right? People have kept up cardio exercise for decades, which is, again, so awesome because it keeps the engine running well, right? But then they don't do as much as they used to, right? They're not going on hikes. They're not doing adventurous things, right? It's all things that are like, can I walk it? Can I jog it? But it's got to be fairly level, right? It can't be too demanding. And there's some ability to like handle more difficult environments, but by and large, like the big explosive movements that we do when we're younger go away as we age.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure what made Mark laugh. He's over there giggling in the corner. So the thing is, I'm not sure why he's laughing. Anyway, so. I can't do it, Mark. You got to stop laughing. We've just had one of those days. It's been a long day. We're building this landing page, and we thought we lost the whole thing. And so Mark was like, I'm done. I'm out. He's like folding up his computer. We found that you could go back in time. And so we've just kind of been a little punch drunk since then. Anyway, I can't even remember where you left off. So for me, one of the big keys with the difference between strength training and cardio is cardio, like it is going to keep us healthy so that we can live longer and things like that. But we kind of one of our new catchphrases is not just living longer, but living better, right? We want to help you live better for longer. And one of the things that happens if we don't include strength training into our cardiovascular work is we see that our paces slow down, our time slows down so that we can get, we can't, you're fine. We can't do as much work. And so we talk about this all the time, how we plateau through our middle ages and then we start to decline with time. And so as we're declining, if we don't have that strength to preserve our ability, we decline even faster. And so even with our cardiovascular work, by doing strength training, it helps sustain us so that we can participate in that even longer and better, so that our mileage in the same amount of time isn't shortening quite as quickly, and we're able to, do longer runs or do more, successful things I look at Marty, who just took sixth in her age group at the Ironman World Championships, and like how awesome is that to be able to be doing that? And what's cool is she actually ran a faster Kona, so this Ironman faster than her first time 10 years ago. So hopefully that's not oversharing, Marty. I think I saw you on here earlier.
But way to go.
Yeah, way to go. We were talking about that earlier today, and that's such a great accomplishment. But part of that is that she's been able to maintain her strength and maintain her ability to keep going and doing that. And so by adding in strength training, it really does help improve your performance with your cardiovascular work too. So that combination of both is really how we live better longer, by doing both the strength training as well as the cardiovascular work.
Yeah. And both of them affect every system of our body. They just do so differently.
Right.
They're different metabolic pathways, right? So our body needs both, right? They need the signals from both to be able to recover, to be able to repair, to be able to adapt to a variety of circumstances. So we talk about training for the 85-year-old, right? What are the activities that I want to be able to do when I'm 85, 95, 100? For most of us, those activities are going to involve a combination of both strength and power and aerobic capacity. And so we have to talk to our body through loading it in different ways. And so, muscle health is important, but strength training also becomes important for other soft tissues, right? So for our tendons and our ligaments, and also for bone. So aerobic exercise just doesn't load bone the same way that strength training exercise does, especially when it's something that's like cycling or swimming, where you don't have any load against gravity. If you're only doing that, then your bones aren't getting the signal to adapt and to grow stronger and to be more resilient. And so we need those heavy weights. We need those plyometric type of movements, because they actually signal our bones to get stronger, to get more robust. And so if we're not doing that, right, we miss out on a huge opportunity to influence our health now and in the future. And this becomes especially important in women that are premenopausal, right, just before, that are going through menopause, or that are postmenopausal. If they can build up a reserve of strength, of bone quality before that process, and even doing those things during that process, it sets them up so much better for the decades to come. And it just isn't. It's getting there in health and fitness, but the importance of resistance exercise has long been kind of neglected. So there's an article that we read recently. It was called "The Coming Age of Resistance Exercise as a Primary Marker of Health," right? Of wellness, of longevity.
And so, that's what kind of inspired this topic in the first place, was this article. And so that's what got us thinking and talking about it. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, and so, you see, I've talked to so many people. I actually asked a couple in their 90s today, when is the last time you remember jumping? And they couldn't remember, right? Like, sat there for a while and thinking, and like, I honestly don't know the last time. Like, it's been a long time. I just don't do that.
To be fair, at 90, they may have forgotten more than they currently remember, but no.
Fair point.
But we don't want to be like that, so keep exercising, because it helps.
Exactly. And so it was fascinating to me, and I like to ask people that question, because for a lot of people, it gets them to pause, and it's just something that we do less and less. And so much of society, right? You look back generations, and the way that people exercised, or what people thought about exercise, like, it's evolved so much over the past 100 years, but there's still a lot of misconceptions and untruths and half-truths out there. And so a lot of times we look at aging as this, like, oh, I guess you just don't do as much. So I've mentioned this before with my 95-year-old grandma that just passed away. People were always telling her, like, sit down, like, let us take care of this, don't do that. She'd be doing, like, somersaults with the grandkids, and, oh, watch it, you probably don't want to do that. And then, like, decade after decade, it was just interesting to watch my mom and her siblings' health, like, diverge, right? So my grandma just kept being healthy, and my mom and her siblings got less and less and less healthy, and so that gap between her mom and the rest of them was just ever widening, and it was wild. So all the things that my grandma could do and how healthy and active she was, it was because she kept moving. She didn't buy into that narrative that as we age, we just have to stop doing the things that we love. We have to give up some part of ourselves because you just can't handle that when we're old. But it's not true, right?
Right.
So and what I talked to this couple about, I said, does it take a little bit longer to build muscle? Absolutely. Is recovery a little bit slower? Absolutely. But can we adapt and get stronger and healthier at any age? Absolutely. And that's the key, is that any time is a good time to start, right? If we haven't been incorporating both of those into our fitness, making sure that we have both of those is going to help our body adapt and get stronger and get better at any age, right? Whether it's 9 or 90.
Yeah.
Well, before I go there, one thing I want to mention, so this is fascinating. They actually came out with a big review. So it's a review of reviews. And what they found is that like starting strength training, even pre-adolescence, is actually hugely beneficial for children, right? There's no harmful effects that they found, right? There was a poorly designed study back in the day of maybe it affecting growth plates, but what they found is that just doesn't bear out in the research, and it actually sets kids up for success in sports and in avoiding some of the injuries that you commonly see as kids get into playing more sports and doing more activities as teenagers.
Right. There really is very little risk from weight training. Now, heavy weightlifting, I would argue, may just rob resources from growth if you were going too heavy. But that's true of anybody, right? If you're going too extreme with your baseball team or your soccer team or whatever, like you're going to rob resources from growth and things like that. So, I mean, it doesn't mean like go no holds barred, like strength training, like turn your kid into a power lifter at 7. But at the same time, you really can do strength training even with weights, as long as you're not being too extreme with it and it's safe and not harmful and is somewhat preventative. So that's kind of the point I was going to say. It was the whole stitch in time saves 9 concept. Using old people phrases, I love it. But that really is true. The more we can get out ahead of something and put that stitch in before it turns into a tear is a big game changer. And so if we can do that with our health, they say with osteoporosis, for example, that there's almost nothing you can do for the rest of your life that's as helpful as what you can do from like the ages of 8 to 28 in terms of avoiding osteoporosis in the future. The amount of calcium, vitamin D, exercise that you get during those early years of your life can do more than everything else you can do for the rest of your life in terms of avoidance of osteoporosis. So strength training early on, cardiovascular exercise early on, so important. But that doesn't mean that we can't make changes and can't make improvements, since I believe all of us on this call are past that phase. All of us are beyond 28. But
well, not all of us.
I guess not Phil over there, but
way to be young, Phil.
Way to be young. So drink your milk, do some push-ups,
eat your Wheaties.
Eat your Wheaties. No, don't eat your Wheaties. No, unless you want type 2 diabetes. Oh, that rhymes. I don't want to lose fitness. It's easier to maintain fitness. So agreed, Marty. It's so true. So I think that concept of like, I always tell people it really is not fun to get in shape. Getting in shape is horrible. It's not very fun. It's a lot more work. Staying in shape, though, is quite enjoyable because you get to do the things you enjoy doing. You get to exercise in ways that help support the things you love to do. So changing up the mentality and mindset behind why you're doing the exercises you're doing is a much easier path that keeps you motivated, whereas getting in shape can be horrible. It can be miserable. And especially the way we often do it. And so our philosophy is let's take it a step at a time and move slowly in the right direction instead of having like some goal or something out there that is maybe more than we can chew off, like taking a bigger bite than we can chew. Like I'm going to sign up for a half marathon or a marathon or something like that, and then it being too big of a goal and us getting injured or things like that, versus planned sustainable growth like we've talked about recently, where we move along in a planned, programmed way that allow us to build up and stay healthy. So I like that approach better. It's so hard to recover fitness. It's sucking. Oh, it's so true, Christy. Yeah, as you've gone through a few big health things. So with Christy's journey, and I hope you don't mind I share this, but she started out fairly deconditioned when she started working with us, and she really earned her fitness back. And it took some time, but she was doing so awesome. Yeah, give that half marathon enough headway and it's totally fine. I totally agreed. And so that was, Christy was building up to be able to do more and more and more. And she was doing so awesome, and then got this diagnosis of cancer, which really set back her fitness journey. But what's awesome is that her level of fitness really helped keep her healthier and allowed her to get through all of this so much faster. And now she's building herself back up again. So honestly, had she not done the steps that she had done before, I think her situation would have been much different, to be honest. And so it is a struggle to get back in shape, and especially because you just had done it. I'm sure that's so frustrating. But at the same time, it's so important that we maintain that health and maintain that fitness, because then we can weather those storms of our health and weather those storms and get back to our fitness so much easier than if we were starting from square one, or even below where you were before. So yeah, it is no easy feat. You're right, Marty. She's doing awesome, and we're excited to see her get back to that trajectory she was on before.
Yeah. Well, so I love one of the things you said, right, is so that we can get through the storms of life. And looking at our aerobic fitness, looking at our strength, is similar to different resources when financial hardship hits or something big happens, right? If you have, a reserve of funds and you have that in a couple of different places, then it allows you to make very different decisions versus if all of your credit cards are maxed out, right? The amount of opportunities and choices that you have available narrows significantly when you're in that place. And the same thing happens with our aerobic health and our strength and things like that. And so if we have that big reserve, then when something happens, right, we get in a car accident, or we get pneumonia, or something, something happens that gives us a hit to our health, instead of dropping into disability, right, and it taking even that much more effort to build back up, we have that reserve of fitness to draw from, so that it doesn't take us down into not being able to do things anymore. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone that this happens to, right? Something traumatic happens to, and like they lose the ability to walk, or they're just bound to a cane or a walker or something like that for years afterwards, because they didn't have enough in reserve. Mm-hmm. And again, this is not to say that we can't come back from things like that, and this is not to say that we can't build up that reserve. But again, like focusing on building that reserve now so that we're prepared for the future really sets us up for long-term success and helps us weather those storms of life in a lot better way. And we just have so many more decisions and opportunities available to us when we have that reserve versus when we don't.
Right, well, that point, so that freedom, right? We have so much more freedom of being able to do what we love to do. And I had this interesting conversation when I worked at the university hospital. I had a homeless patient that was coming to see us, and so I was talking to him about why he chose to be homeless, why he chose to live on the streets and things like that. And he's like, "Oh, I just love the freedom of it. I like being able to choose my own, what I can do with my time and all these other things." And I was like, "What about the freedom to like go to the bathroom where you want to go, or when you want to go, or like what about the freedom of choosing when you can have your next meal versus like when you can scrap it together, and the freedoms of those types of things?" And he's like, "I don't know, I've never thought about it that way." It's like, in a way, like your freedoms are limited because you can't do certain things because you don't have a home, you don't have regular income, you don't have, food, things like that, it in some ways robs some of your freedoms. And I feel like that's true of our physical health as well. We often hear people are like, oh, I don't have time, or am I going to really have to do this for my whole life? I just don't want to be bound to having to exercise always. But the problem is you choose kind of your hard. You choose where you are free and where your struggles are. It is a struggle to find time to get our fitness in. It is a struggle to make all that work and to figure out how to lead a healthy, active lifestyle. That's hard. At the same time, it's way easier than dealing with major health issues and dealing with the debility of inactivity. So I would rather choose the hard and choose like figuring out how I'm going to work exercise and healthy living and healthy diet into my life than be forced to have the hard of poor health and all of the consequences of that. And so, not to say that any of that is easy, but we get somewhat to choose our hard and choose where our freedoms come in. I have the freedom to move the way I want to move and do the activities that I want to do because I chose the hard of exercise. And by choosing, not exercising, then we're essentially choosing the hard of poor health outcomes.
Right. Well, and we've talked before on this call about how both aerobic and exercise and strength training, resistance exercise, I could not think of that word, how both of those affect how our brain's functioning, right? Our memory, our ability to problem solve and reason, our emotions, right? How do we handle the ups and downs? And so when we create a better environment for our mental health, then it helps us make better decisions, right? We're making fewer reactions and making more decisions, and we're able to go through that process of trial and learning faster, right? We're able to try this experiment, see how it went, and then try the next experiment, right? Dial in those little changes, and so we're I guess when we're not exercising regularly, right? We're doubly faulting ourselves because our body's getting weaker, but also like our brains get less and less good at solving problems, right? You get that brain fog, and we know of the association of like poor metabolic health and diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, right? The research is becoming more and more clear in that domain, and so we want to set ourselves up good in all those different domains. And again, like Cameron said, none of this is easy, but finding accountability partners that can help us to make better decisions. And for some people, right, maybe that's a lifting buddy, or a running or a cycling buddy, or finding some way to make it a little bit more social can ease the transition back into activity. But again, like I talked about earlier, because exercise affects all of the different systems of our body, and our body was designed to move. We've talked about this on so many calls, right? Over thousands and thousands of years, it was designed to move regularly, and our current lifestyle, it just isn't set up to support movement, right?
Definitely not anymore.
So I think it's understandable, and we can respect that like, yeah, this isn't easy. A lot of society, a lot of things are just set up that encourage us to sit down more, right? Oh, well, why would I, park out here when I could just park right close to the, right close to the theater or to the store? Why would I bike there when I can just drive, or when I can Uber, or whatever the thing is? And so consciously making some of those choices to, like Cameron said, choose the hard and put in that extra effort in some of those small decision-making moments that can have exponential effects years later in what your health looks like.
There are some side effects, though, of choosing the hard of exercise and moving more and things like that. So Shannon is so traumatized by me that, funny story, she woke up totally ticked off at me this morning because of a dream that she had. And it was pretty funny. So we were building a home, apparently, in her dream. And I kept telling the contractor, no, we don't want a master bathroom. And she kept like fighting me on it, like, no, what are you talking about? Like, why would we not have a master bathroom? And I kept like, no, we don't want it. And so I'd secretly behind her back tell the contractor, like, no master bathroom. And the reason why I didn't want a master bathroom is so that I could get more steps in.
So accurate. So accurate.
So I have traumatized Shannon by my wanting to get more steps in, to the level that she is having nightmares about that. So I thought that was pretty funny. So you can choose your heart, and one of those may be nightmares about getting your steps in.
Gotta keep that master bathroom in.
Yeah, so no master bathroom when you build your house so you can get more steps.
That's so you.
I don't think I would actually do that, but I thought that was funny. But yeah, essentially, we can choose our heart. We can choose to live longer and live better. And the key is exercise is the fountain of youthful longevity. So that combination of both strength training and cardiovascular training is really how we can find that fountain of youth and the key to living longer. So that really is that perfect combo of doing both strength training and cardiovascular training. It's so often that we find people are in one camp or the other, or enjoy one and hate the other. And we really have to find a way to enjoy both, because it's going to lead to the best possible outcomes. Strength training is going to really augment your cardiovascular work and help you to be able to perform better. And your cardiovascular work is going to help you not be as gassed, and be able to do the activities you love to do more and better, so that you can participate in all the things you love to do. So that combination of both is so critical. And so stick with it.
Well, this was one of the fascinating things from this article we were looking at was a chart, and it was just looking at kind of the risk for dying.
All-cause mortality.
For all-cause mortality, they call it. And so doing resistance training reduced that risk quite a bit. Aerobic training reduced that quite a bit. But combining them together, the effect was very substantial, right? It more than either alone. And so, like Cameron said, they really work synergistically. And remembering that there's no one thing, right? It's not the one thing that's going to make you age gracefully or do this. It's a lot of these little things that we combine together and find effective patterns so that we make those behaviors habitual and we want to do them, right? We wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, you know what? I got to do my exercise. It's just time for that. Mm-hmm. And when we build that in and when we do it consistently, then our brains are directed towards that, right? We kind of seek that out. We seek that behavior out. And so finding ways to make that behavior sustainable and consistent really will do the most so that, like Cameron said, we can have that fountain of youthful longevity.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. You mentioned consistency. That's the key. If there is the one thing, it's just being consistent with doing all of those foundational type things, of which, diet, strength training, cardiovascular work, healthy relationships, getting quality sleep, and managing stress or mental health. Like, those really are like the big keys. And if you've got those foundational things and are being consistent in those areas, then life's gonna flow pretty well for you. If not, we'll see struggles, and we all do and will in life. And so it's just balancing that and doing our best to stay consistent. So we're on that journey with you, fighting to stay consistent in living healthy and being healthy. And so, yeah, we'll keep fighting that good fight, and we'll hit it again on Thursday on our call so we can talk more about how you can live better longer. Okay, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you then.
Thanks for listening to the Becoming Body Smart podcast. If you have questions, thoughts, or want to continue the conversation, reach out to us on our socials or join our community. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring you even more valuable content. Remember, sustainable health is a lifelong journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Live longer, live stronger, and become body smart.